Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third Wellness Wednesday and the third week of the Feds in Motion Challenge. I am Robin Keogh, Executive Director of the Federal Employee Education and Assistance Fund, and the challenge is an annual event supporting our mission to empower federal and postal employees and their families to achieve their educational, financial, and career goals as they serve the American people. Thank you so much for joining us and for your support of the physical, mental, and financial health of federal families, especially during these difficult times. During the challenge, Wellness Wednesdays are an integral part of our wellness theme, giving us time to focus more deeply on different aspects of wellness and to bring you information from experts who work, teach, and coach in the fields we're exploring. Today's session, The Power of Stretching for Productivity, is brought to you by United Healthcare. We are delighted to be welcoming United Healthcare back as a gold sponsor for the third year running and truly appreciate their ongoing commitment to the health and wellness of federal employees and their families. To say a few words and introduce our presenters, it's now my pleasure to introduce Rontavia Briscoe, FEHBP and Fed VIP Account Manager for United Healthcare Federal Programs. Rontavia?
Thank you so much, Robin. And I am happy to be here. As she stated, my name is Rontavia Briscoe, and I am an account manager at United Healthcare Federal Programs. And I would like to say thank you to FIA and to all of you, your families and employees I want to say thank you for your service and your dedication. It's truly an honor to support those who serve our country in so many different ways. This year marks the fifth annual Feds in Motion Challenge, as we're so proud to be a sponsor. FIA does an incredible job. They provide scholarships, disaster relief, emergency and financial support to federal families in their time of need. This mission aligns so well with our values at United Healthcare, and we're proud to offer health plans through the Federal Employees Benefits Program and dental and vision through FedVip. We also have Medicare Advantage plans designed specifically for federal retirees. And beyond coverage, we also offer wellness perks and tools to help you stay on top of your health. At United Healthcare, we know that wellness is about the whole your mind and your body. That's why we're excited to support today's Wellness Wednesday stretching webinar and to celebrate your movement through this challenge. Thank you again for your service and for showing up for your health. We're rooting for you to reach those 37 miles in 37 days. You got this. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Rontavia. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's presenter, Dr. Mike Eckrich, who is a board-certified sports physical therapist, a fellow of the American Academy of Orthopedic Manual Physical Therapists, and an assistant professor at the University of Delaware. He's a leading expert training the next generation of physical therapists. Dr. Eckrich?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Eckrich. I'm a physical therapist at the University of Delaware, and I'm here today to talk to everyone about strength training or resistance training and why it's important, why we do it, and the value that it has for making the life that you have now a little bit better. So let's talk a little bit about why we're here in the first place. In the last 100 years or so, many of us, myself included, spend anywhere from 6 to 12 hours a day sitting. That's just the nature of most of our jobs. With the invention of cars and other sources of transportation and how the world works now, it's not requisite for you to get up and move throughout the day. So we find ourselves spending a lot of time, oftentimes, sitting, doing work at a computer, or even work at home. Movement's important, as I'm sure you've heard many times in other places, because it helps boost your mood and energy and just your overall health. There's a litany of positive benefits from exercise and movement in general that we don't have to go through today, but I do want to emphasize that resistance training and strength training is not only a key component, but it's a unique one in that it offers benefits that simply aren't reaped as easily with other types of exercise. And we're going to talk a little bit about why that's important and the implications that it has for making your life better, as I mentioned previously, but also making you a healthier person overall. And then I think the other piece of this too is that I want to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the barriers that there are to resistance training and maybe knocking down some of those barriers to make it a little bit easier to start. Before we start to talk about resistance training exercise and how that fits into a regular exercise routine and knocking down barriers to participation, I first wanted to talk about exercise in general and what's recommended across the board for health. Close to 50 years ago, the American College of Sports Medicine, the ACSM, put out physical activity guidelines for what Americans should be trying to do in terms of exercise and activity to live a life that's as healthy as we can make it. Because there's been a litany of evidence and research that shows that exercise is important, as you all know, but it can help to prevent and mitigate the effects of a lot of chronic disease that we see in the United States, diabetes and heart disease. And it's a crucial component of living a healthy life. So they put out some guidelines for what should I do in terms of exercise. I know I should be active, but what does that look like? Give me some parameters to follow. And they're listed here. The first being, and probably the one that people think of the most often, is 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity aerobic exercise or 75 minutes per week of vigorous exercise, which those are somewhat ambiguous terms if you're not familiar with exercise. So I like to think about it as the 150 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise. You can think of that as the type of exercise where you're slightly out of breath, but you can still speak in short and broken sentences. So I'll tell people that you should be able to speak but not sing, slightly out of breath while you're exercising, but still kind of that conversational. I can talk to my friend next to me. So think about biking, low intensity running, hiking, the elliptical, those kind of things that'll get you just a little bit out of breath, but that you can hold a conversation at the same time. Whereas the 75 minutes of vigorous intensity exercise, think of that as something where I can only speak for 1 to 2 words at a time. Very broken sentences. I'm running really fast. I'm biking more quickly. I'm playing sports where I can only speak 1 to 2 words at a time. So for your aerobic exercise, for your cardiovascular health, either 150 minutes of that moderate intensity exercise or 75 minutes of vigorous, or a combination of both of those together, spread out through as many sessions as you can throughout the week. 5 days is how they usually map it out, 30 minutes of that moderate intensity, 5 days a week, which is a goal and a starting point, but as we'll talk about with resistance training, you can start small and build up to that point. The other recommendations that they have here are 2 days a week of resistance training exercise, which is going to be the bulk of our focus here today, and then flexibility and balance work for older adults. Now you may ask, why resistance training, strength training? What unique value does it offer compared to other types of exercise? As a physical therapist, I see it all the time, the tremendous benefit that adding resistance training or strength training to people's lives, the impact that that can have. Especially for me in my job, one of the benefits of strength training is building a more resilient body. There's this phenomenon called Wolff's Law that was discovered a long time ago, but it basically states that the human body and any or most biological organisms, the body will respond to the stresses that you place upon it and adapt to make it more resilient to the task that you're asking it to do. So the example that's often used with Wolff's law is with bone. So doing weight bearing exercise or not even exercise activity in general, um, that that stimulates the bone. If you do something that's a little bit more than what you're used to doing, if you're used to walking, you add in a little bit of resistance to that, a little bit of extra stress, then the bone will adapt to that stress and become thicker and stronger. I mean, you've seen bodybuilders and people that exercise, they work their muscles get bigger and stronger to adapt to the demands that you place on it. And that is true of many tissues in the human body. We see that in the joints as well, in the bones, in the muscles. Your tendons and ligaments will respond to the stresses that you put on it and become stronger and thicker and more resilient. So it's an excellent injury prevention and mitigation tool to build a stronger and more resilient body, to have more robust tendons, stronger muscles, bigger and stronger bones. There are many, many benefits in terms of pain and injury. And there's actually some evidence that people that exercise on a regular basis, both strength training and endurance training specifically, have less pain in general. They're less responsive to painful stimuli because their body is used to being put under that stress. So there's a tremendous injury prevention benefit with strength training and other types of exercise, but especially resistance training. There's also metabolic benefits. The way that your metabolism works will be different. So your, as I mentioned before, your bones will become more dense, but your insulin sensitivity will change as well, and it makes you more efficient in terms of getting blood sugar out of your bloodstream and where it needs to go in the human body. So it makes your body a more efficient metabolic machine. The other thing that adding a little bit of muscle and changing your body composition can do um, is muscle. You've probably heard the adage that muscle tends to burn more calories than fat, and that is true. So as you do resistance training and build some muscle, your metabolism will increase, which is a positive for many people because a lot of the uh, a lot of what people do resistance training for, what you may think of, is the body composition changes, which can be valuable, and there's some help to that, and in terms of your health, but it's not the only benefit as we're seeing. But it is a benefit. Putting on some muscle can increase your metabolism and burn a little bit more fat or adipose tissue. I think the other big thing that stands out for me in my job and what I see is the functional aspect of things. Doing resistance training will make everyday life feel a little bit easier. If you're used to lifting weights, then carrying your groceries or that Costco trip is going to get a little bit easier because you're used to doing a little bit more. You're used to carrying heavier things and lifting heavier things and adding more resistance to your life. So it can make carrying groceries easier, getting up and down from a chair easier, stairs, um, playing with your kids and lifting them up. It makes the tasks of everyday life a little bit easier in terms of the strength. Okay, so there are many, many benefits to strength training. This is a truncated version, and I'm happy to talk more in depth about that whenever you want to hear it. But there's many, many benefits to finding a way to incorporate resistance training and strength training into your daily life, semi-daily life, as a part of your exercise routine. And to piggyback off that, there are some additional benefits to resistance training. There's very strong evidence that the number one treatment for both chronic neck and lower back pain is exercise. And one of the best ways to do that is through resistance training. We've seen many, many times, and in the literature, that people that have chronic neck and lower back pain tend to have weaker muscles in their cervical and lumbar, or their neck and lower back, paraspinals, or the muscles around your spine. So the number one treatment for both of those chronic pains is to build strength in those muscle groups. It can also improve how you sleep and your energy throughout the day. You're a little more lively, and more activity throughout the day tends to help with sleep later in the day. There are plenty of mental health benefits as well to feeling more empowered and participating in something that's challenging and rewarding. And then the other big thing that we see a lot in physical therapy land is what we call, and what the scientific community calls, sarcopenia, or the loss of muscle as you age. So it is true that as you age, if you don't intervene or do something specifically to mitigate it, then yes, you will lose muscle and bone density and connective tissue density, and you'll get stiffer over time. The one thing that we've seen many, many times and through studying masters athletes and people as they age is that the minimum effective dose to maintain the muscle that you have is very small in order to uh, keep the muscle that you have as you age. And the other thing that we see is that you can not only prevent it by continuing to resistance train as you age, but that you can still make improvements. There's dozens of studies that show that older adults, 65 years and up, can make changes in their body composition. They can increase their muscle, they can lose body fat, they can improve their strength and performance by participating in resistance training. So I don't want that to be thought of as a lost cause where we're only preventing the loss by doing this resistance training. We're maintaining and not losing. If you are an older adult and you participate in a strength training program that's something that's a little bit more challenging than what you're used to doing, then as long as your nutrition is good, you will absolutely make improvements in your strength, and you will absolutely increase muscle. The programs might look slightly different, and the way that we dole out the exercises, exercise selection might be a little bit different in older adults compared to younger, but you can absolutely still make improvements. I think that is a misnomer that as you age, we're only working on maintaining. You can absolutely make improvements, and similar to those that are younger in terms of strength, performance, and muscle building. Let's talk about some misconceptions about resistance training, strength training. The number one, and the one that I see the most often, is the fear that you'll bulk up instantaneously, which is just simply not true. I've been trying to bulk up since I was 13 years old, and it hasn't happened yet, so it's not going to happen on accident. The people that get really, really bulky are trying to do that, and they're genetically predisposed to doing that, and it takes a lot of hard work. So by starting to incorporate some resistance training in your exercise routine a couple times a week, you absolutely will not bulk up on accident. If you want to, and that's a goal of yours, that absolutely can happen with some hard work and time, but it won't happen on accident. If anything, adding in a little bit more muscle will give the tone look that a lot of people are looking for, uh, and potentially help lose some body fat, which also some people are looking for. But again, our focus in physical therapy is more the functional side of things. Another one is that you don't need to join a gym. That's often a barrier to entry for folks, is that I don't have the time or the financial resources to start at my local gym, which is fine. A gym is a great place to do resistance training with some kind of low-hanging fruit machines that you can use and resources, but it's absolutely not necessary to start. I tell my clients and patients all the time that if you live in a home or an apartment, there are plenty of things and resources uh, that we can help you to find ways to incorporate resistance training, and even with just your body weight, as you'll see with some of the exercises we'll show later, that you can do it with just body weight alone, resistance training. The other thing is the safety concern. I think we see this in a lot of sports and exercise pursuits, is the concern that I'm going to get hurt if I start this. And as a physical therapist who sees people who injure themselves all the time, the number one cause for injury, I'm going to steal a quote from my friend Scott Morrison. He has said that most injuries happen from doing too much too soon or too little for too long. So I think the latter really speaks for me. I see a lot of people that wind up with pain because they haven't been exercising in a long time. So I think that is potentially a contributor in and of itself. But it's also true that doing too much too soon can lead to some overuse type injuries. So whenever we start any kind of exercise program or resistance training program, one, it's important to talk to your doctor first and make sure that you're medically safe to participate, your primary care doctor. And two, it's helpful to start slow and lighter than you think you can do, and then to build over time. We're going to play the long game here and do what you can to keep progressing over time. So there's no need to try to get to your max right away as you start. And if you do that way, there's really, really good evidence that just normal resistance training exercise programs are very, very low on the injury risk spectrum compared to other activities. The normal numbers that you'll see thrown around in the literature are 1 to 2, maybe 2.5 injuries per 1,000 participation hours. So very, very low on the injury risk scale. And if you're concerned, then you can always consult with your local physical therapist or exercise trainer to help give you some parameters to guide your exercise program. And now to the good stuff. What counts as resistance training? So there are many ways that you can incorporate resistance into your life. The first being body weight exercises that you'll see mostly on our next slide, like squats and planks and push-ups and dip variations, lunges, step-ups. There are no shortage of body weight exercises that we can find for your upper and lower body to help build strength in those areas. You can also use resistance bands that are relatively cheap to find on Amazon or at your local um, drugstore or even Walmart or Target. There are plenty of ways to find resistance bands, and they're easy to use and can add a little bit of extra resistance to any of the exercises that we show you here, or there's no shortage of exercise options. You can use dumbbells, the handheld weights, or kettlebells, as you'll see in the picture here, or household items. I tell people all the time, a gallon of milk is 8 pounds. So that's a very convenient way to add a little bit of weight to your squats or to your shoulder exercises or uh, lunges, step ups, any of these. There are plenty of household items that you can find to add a little bit of extra resistance. And then if you do decide to go to a gym, there are many, many different options to add resistance, including dumbbells and barbells and machines. They'll have exercise bands there too, resistance bands, which would make it a little bit easier, of course, but there are plenty of ways to find objects around the house to incorporate resistance into your exercises at home. So absolutely not necessary to join a gym to start a resistance training program. If you're looking for exercises, this slide is a great place to start. These are several different exercises that will show you or variations of them to help build your strength in your legs and a little bit in your upper body as well. And they show that you don't really need any special equipment or extra resources to add a little bit of resistance to an exercise program. Bodyweight exercises are a great place to start. So we have here a bodyweight squat, a push up on a wall or on an incline, a glute bridge, and stepping up onto a chair or a box, and a plank. These are all great ways to start, and there are dozens upon dozens of other exercises, really hundreds of exercises that you can pick to add to some strength to your program. I always tell my patients and clients that exercise is like the Cheesecake Factory menu. There's a lot of options and everyone can find something that works for them. So as far as resistance training exercises go, it's not so important that what the exercise is specifically. There's no magic exercise or best exercise. It should be something that you can progress over time and is relatively challenging for you right now. And your exercise program should ultimately include exercises for all of the major muscle groups in your body. So your legs, your back muscles, your core muscles, your arms and shoulders. As long as your resistance training program has exercises that you like and are relatively challenging for you and you can progress over time and they hit most of those major muscle groups, then you're off to a really good start.
So first I want to talk about a squat. Easy exercise you can do at home, and you don't need a lot of equipment. We can start to add some resistance over time, but pretty much everyone can do some version of this, right? So you're going to start with your feet slightly wider, then hip width apart with your toes pointed slightly out. You're going to keep your chest up nice and tall, and you're going to sit your butt or your hips down as far as you can go, as far as your mobility will allow for you to keep your chest upright. That might be here to start. It might be here. You might be able to go a little bit lower when you start. Any of those are fine. You want to try to work towards getting your hips below your knees over time and keeping your chest up as tall as you can and standing all the way up, getting good hip extension at the top. So we're going to do a few reps in a row. Keep your toes pointed slightly out. You can, if you're not comfortable using resistance yet, stick your arms out for balance. Your hips are going to come all the way down to the ground, just below your knees, stand all the way back up at the top. And then again, you can add some resistance, hold on to a light weight in the front or a backpack to make that a little bit more challenging for your legs. Okay, another good exercise you can do is if you have stairs in the home, just pick the lowest stair on your staircase. Put one foot up on the step at a time, so you're going to be standing off to the side. Keep your hips nice and level. Let your foot come down to the ground, just tap your heel and then come all the way back up without letting your hips sag in either direction. This is another good leg strengthening exercise for one at a time to work on your quads or your thigh muscle strength and your glute muscle strength. So again, we're going to focus on staying up nice and tall, heel taps the ground and come right back up. Easily can add resistance to this too, holding a light weight or a backpack to add a little bit of resistance over time. Do 8 to 12 reps on each leg. It's also nice, the staircase, if you're not feeling very comfortable on your feet, you can grab onto the railing to make sure you have good balance with that too. Okay, another good exercise for your upper body is going to be a push-up. And when we normally think about push-ups, it's from the ground. A better place to start, if you're not comfortable with it or just getting started to resistance training, is doing it from something elevated. So you can either start with your hands on a wall or something that's a little bit lower than that, like a kitchen counter or your bed. You're going to have your hands supported on that elevated surface. You want your body to be in a nice straight line from your head all the way down to your feet. So my butt's not back, I'm not sitting forward like this. Everything's in a nice straight line. Your hands are a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, and you're going to come down, let your chest touch whatever you're pressing to, either that kitchen counter or your bed, and then press in that nice plank position, come all the way back up to full elbow extension at the top. So my arms are straight. If you're not comfortable getting all the way down initially, it's fine to start with some half reps and come all the way back up. Try to work that down over time so you get your chest to touch that surface that you're working towards. And then over time, you can work towards something lower. So maybe you start on the wall or your kitchen counter, you work towards your bed or the couch, and then eventually we can work on doing push-ups from the floor, but this is a good place to start from that elevated surface. Another exercise that you can do to work more of the muscles in your back, your shoulder blade muscles, you'll need a resistance band, which you can find easily on Amazon or Walmart or at Dick's Sporting Goods. Any good sporting goods store will have resistance bands. You're going to start with your arms locked out straight like this with an overhand grip on your band. With your arm straight, you're gonna pull the band all the way across so that it touches your chest, and you're really squeezing your shoulder blades together at the back, and then come all the way back to the front. Squeeze those shoulder blades together, and then all the way back to the front. You can do these for 8 to 12 reps at a time, just like our other exercises. Really good for building your shoulder blade strength, which is good for your posture we talked about. We're spending a lot of time sitting at our desk. This is a great way to mitigate the effects of sitting like this all day long. We're gonna work on opening up your chest and squeezing those shoulder blades together at the back. And you can find these resistance bands at any local sporting goods store or Amazon.
Thank you so much for that. I really learned some great things that I'm going to try to incorporate into my own stretching routine. So, Dr. Eckrich, thank you so much for doing that for us today. And Rontavia and everyone at United Healthcare, thank you so much for supporting FIA and FEDS and the Feds in Motion Challenge. I hope everyone watching today will join us again next week when our topic is Be Kind to Your Mind.